I can't wait. Think about what we're gonna get on this exciting gacha roll. I wonder what Uber are we gonna get here. But aside from that, I feel like there should be some kind of gameplay going on. What's Subway Surfers gameplay? I have an idea. Alright, so let's talk about talent orbs. Now that we're ready and that we have a funny gameplay going on that absolutely has nothing to do with talent orbs, let's talk about talent orbs. What are you guys' thoughts about talent orbs in general? Like, is it helpful? Is it good? Do you guys use it? Just like the big things. No need to go like too in depth. Just like the main things that you have in thoughts. Mid, never use, I just collect. I have like 20 S orbs, but they don't do shit. Don't mind, I love talent orbs. I have like 10 of them. What's the use of orbs if they don't have talent? Too much work for everything that is maxed out. I think use talent orbs seems like a decent mechanic. I barely noticed them. My level 46 Aphrodite can break an Ultra Papa shield thanks to an extra and passive damage orb. That is usually how people use it, right? I'm not really sure how agreeable this is, but would you guys say that like talent orbs are generally mainly like a pain in the ass to farm, and it's not worth farming it for what it's worth, essentially, right? I think that's what a lot of people are thinking, essentially. I guess since, just in case if some people aren't familiar with talent orbs in the first place, let's talk about what talent orbs are. I was gonna read this out from the wiki. Talent orbs, also just known as orbs, are a feature implemented in feature 9.7. This feature allows players to improve the base damage or health of certain true form cats against one of many enemy traits. Talent orbs becomes available after clearing ITF Chapter 3. Talent orbs is an item that can be given to a unit in an upgrade menu by going to the talent orb screen. This is probably better if I show this in-game, but if I move to in-game, it's just me beating up this poor elephant. Also, this sign is there. Okay, here it is, I guess. Generally, every units that have talents have one slot for talent orbs, but units that have ultra talents have 2 talent orb slots. Some units with ultra talent only has 1 for some reason. I'm not really sure if that's like an oversight or like a bug or something like that. I'm not really sure. Okay, so there are different types of talent orbs. These talent orbs are attack up, defense up, strong against, massive damage, and resist. There's no other orbs for like slow or freeze or anything, and each of these orbs will have a certain type on it. Either a red, black, floating, metal, angel, alien, zombie, and Aku. So these are basically everything except for relic and traitless. They also would come in different grades. They're S, A, B, C, and D. For metals, there's only defense up, there's no attack up, there's no strong against, there's no massive damage, there's no resist. I want to talk about that a little bit later. You can kind of see here. These are like the different types of talent orbs. I think this is a little bit outdated since it doesn't have Aku, but these are essentially all the talent orbs that you can see. Like every talent orbs has certain grades, has certain traits, and has certain abilities, or certain whatever it is that like buffs them. This is for attack up, defense, strong, massive damage, and resist. It's relatively self-explanatory. If you have, for example, an attack up that is target red with grade D, then it will improve that certain unit's attack against that specific trait for a minimum effect. That's essentially it. You can combine these orbs to get a higher grade. So if you have 2 D orbs, you can turn them into C. If you have 2 C orbs, you can turn them into B. If you have 3 B orbs, you can turn them into A. And if you have 3 A orbs, you can turn them into S. Essentially, if you want to get S orb all the way from D, you need about like 2, 4, 12, 36. You need 36 D orbs, which is quite a lot. To get the orbs at the first place, there are several different ways, but the 2 main ways to get orbs are Enigma stages and Gauntlet stages. So Enigma, it's a whole different subject. You can look up Enigma stages on your own. After you beat Jailbreak Tunnel, you will be able to unlock this feature called Enigma, which is Enigma Balls, exactly. You unlock this feature called Enigma, where essentially if you spend enough energy, you'll have a chance to get an extra stage, whatever. You can read that on your own. This isn't about Enigma. There's a lot of these Enigma stages. Some of these stages are focused on certain traits, and usually what happens is that these Enigma stages will drop talent orbs based on those traits. If you get an Enigma that is like focused on red, then you'll probably get a red orb, essentially, and you know, yada whatever. The Enigmas have like 3 different tiers. There's like Cradle, Summit, and Frontier. Cradle is the worst one, Frontier is the best one. The chance of getting them, whatever, it's on Enigma page, whatever. I'll look that up on your own. I'm sorry, I don't want to explain too much in depth into Enigma because that's a whole different kind of worms. As you can see here, the drop rates here, you cannot get an A orb in the Enigma stages with the acceptance of Aku Enigma stage, which is not listed here for some reason, I think. Aku Enigmas are special. Aku Enigmas in general actually have a better chance for all of the grades. I don't really remember the specifics, unfortunately, but essentially, Aku has a better drop rate than all of these. But as you can see here, for the most part, you'll have a pretty high chance of generally just getting D orbs. Special I should probably also explain a little bit about this. So there's a special D grade and normal D grade. Special D grade are these three: strong against massive damage and resist. These are quote-unquote special. Most of the time you're going to get the quote-unquote normal D grade, which are going to be only attack up and defense up. And the other chance is normal C grade and normal B grade of attack up and defense up. And again, you see this, that even on the highest possible tier, you'll only have a 7% chance of getting a normal B grade. Remember that you need 3 Bs and then 3 more A's, so that essentially you need 9 Bs to be able to get 1 S orb. And you don't really get Enigma stages that much, and especially maybe not the target type that you want. There's like a lot of different target types, and all of these are like really random. Essentially, my point is trying to get S rank orbs in general are usually a huge pain in the ass. Yeah, a lot of people in general don't really like to grind Enigmas, because also getting Enigma orbs in Enigmas at the first place also sucks. Also, you can't technically do this stage called Isle of the Hidden Treasures. This is also another place where you can get Enigma orbs. This is an entire chapter where it would have the entire like catalog of every single Enigma stages. This goes from like Cradle Red, Cradle Floating, Cradle Black, Cradle Holy, Cradle Blue, Cradle Zombie, and then Cradle this is Metal, I assume, and then Summit Red until Summit Metal. Yeah, this goes again from Red to Metal. So you can also get Enigma straight from here. You can get orbs straight from here. Isn't it Isle of the Map Lord? Isle of the Map Lord. Okay, so here's the thing. Isle of the Map Lord is the old way to get orbs. Isle of the Hidden Treasure is a replacement. Yeah, you can even see here, this is remove content. Isle of the Map Lord used to be how you can like quote-unquote farm Enigma stages, which is that these are 3 different 200 energy stages. These are like unique stages, by the way. This isn't like a copy of like Enigma stages. These are unique stages that are completely removed. And what these does is that this will immediately give you guaranteed Enigma map at the end of beating it. But this is already removed in place for Island of the Hidden Treasure, where you can just basically you can kind of just choose whichever type of orbs that you want to farm, which I would say is much more, what do you call it? It's better. Okay, I can't really find the words for it. Essentially, it's better. It's just good. You can't choose whether you want to get attack or defense or special orbs, but at least you can choose which trait you want to farm on. Granted, it's still like a lot of energy. It's like 300 energy per play and all that stuff. In general, not a lot of people are probably going to like spending a lot of time trying to farm these. The other way to get orbs is gauntlets, and this is probably the best way if you want to get special grade orbs. So essentially, every time you beat a gauntlet stage, you have a chance to get a continuation stage. The farther you go into gauntlet, the higher chance it is that you're going to get a continuation stage. I believe starting from stage 16, you are guaranteed to have a continuation stage, and all of these continuation stages have 3 different tiers: Cradle, Summit, and Frontier. Same like the Enigma Orb one, except that these are more unique stages. These are different stages than the ones with like Enigma, and they also have a different drop rate. The drop rate here, for example, for the Cradle, which is like the easiest one, you can see here you actually have like a decent chance of getting the special grade orbs. This is, for example, if you do like Barren Seal and you get the Cradle Wilderness continuation, you have a 20% chance to get Strong up, you have a 20% chance to get Resist up, and then you have a little bit more chance to get Attack and all that stuff, and you also have a 20% chance for massive damage. So these are where, if you want to get special grade orbs, this is where you usually get them. This is like the most common and easiest one. Again, like higher it is, you get like better chance for higher stuff, right? I think. Oh yeah. So like, for example, here on Cradle Wilderness, you get a 20% chance to get D orbs, but in Frontier, you get a 20% chance to get B, which are much higher. All of these ways to get talent orbs shares one common trait, which are all of them are a massive pain in the ass. Enigma orbs in general are really random. You can't really choose what to farm. Most of the time, you're gonna get Hunter's Map anyways. You have to wait like 3 hours to unlock the Enigmas. You have to decode the Enigma. And for Isle of the Map Lord, it's 300 energy. It's quite a lot. It doesn't come, well, I mean, it comes relatively often, but it doesn't come all the time. And like, you have to go through every single one of these one by one. So for example, oh, you want to farm Zombie with like the highest chance, you should go from stage 1 to all the way to stage 20 to actually be able to reach here. So that sucks. Granted, if you already finished this just for the sake of maybe you want to get like the cat food clear, then yeah, sure, you can do that too. That's also fine. Either way, but like all of these are still a pain in the ass, and especially gauntlets. If you're not in like end of UL or maybe you don't have like certain busted Ubers. Most gauntlets are an absolute pain in the ass, and most gauntlets you probably aren't going to enjoy farming. Gauntlets in general are not the most fun content in battle cats in general, right? Some people who probably don't really have anything else to do, who likes to optimize playing gauntlets, who likes to optimize certain gameplay, could be somewhat entertained to play gauntlets, but even then, it's one of the least fun things that you can do in battle cats. So aside from that, the question is also like, okay, well, if it's a pain in the ass to get, is it even worth doing at the first place? And this is where most people would say, no. Don't really farm talent orbs unless you literally have nothing else to do. So why is it really generally considered bad? For number one, grinding it is a pain. We already talked about that. And the upgrades are only for specific traits. Remember that you can only have 1 talent orbs for each unit. For example, like Dark Laser, right? Dark Laser targets 2 traits, which are red and black. But unfortunately, Dark Laser only has 1 talent orb slot. You can't really choose to make her better against red and black. You can only choose one. You can choose between attack, defense, or the strong up. You can't choose like have all of them. So what you can choose is like relatively limited. What's also an extra pain in the ass, exactly, it costs 10 NP to remove. I get it, but also at the same time, come the fuck on, man. If you, for example, have strong up red on Dark Laser, and then you're against a black stage, and you're like, huh, I want to make Dark Laser good against this black stage actually. And so you're like, alright, let's equip the black talent orb instead. So you have 2 choices. One is that you can equip the black orb on Dark Laser and destroy the previous talent orb, or you can remove the previous talent orb, but you have to pay 10 NP for it. So it's either you pay 10 NP to safely remove the red orb, or you destroy it in place of the black orb, which kinda sucks because 10 NP is, it may not sound like much if you think, but if you think about it, it's actually quite a lot. NPs are very scarce in general. So you know, the funny thing is that I was talking about talent orbs to like someone like the boomer players, and I think Ufa or Tim Tams, I forgot, one of them said basically it's like, you know, I would rather pay cat food than paying NP to remove the talent orb slot. And at first I thought about it, it's like, what? No, but like cat food is also hard. And then I think about it again and I'm like, you know, maybe I would actually rather pay cat food than NP. Granted, it's still not going to be good, but I think I would actually rather pay cat food. If you're wondering like, why is this even a thing at the first place? Essentially, I think the idea is that Ponos doesn't want you to be able to only farm, for example, 1 S orb of every trait and of every ability, and then only just like swap them around, you know? Ponos wants you to farm more, or else you can just take away the previous orb and put it on another unit. Ponos doesn't want that. 10 NP, cough it up. But also, so for example, okay, this is a little bit hard to understand, but like for example, massive damage up, attack multiplier plus 0.5 plus 0.4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. So to put it simply, massive damage is an ability where you would triple your damage, and if you have max treasures on Into the Future for fruits or Kiss of the Cosmos fruit, this will become times 4. What massive damage orb does is that this will increase the multiplier. So for example, if you have an A orb on for example Pizza Cat, and if you have max black fruit effect, then Pizza Cat would do 4 times damage to black enemies. But if you have the A orb, Pizza Cat will do 4.4 times damage against black enemies. Essentially, you're increasing Pizza's damage against black enemies by 10%. And 10% is no joke. 10% is actually pretty good. But remember that this is only against 1 trait, and that this is a culmination of like 12 B orbs, which is a lot. Resist is also pretty good. Resist and defense, I believe, is also relatively similar. Wait, hold on. I actually kind of forgot how resist works. How does this work again? Oh, okay. I remember now. Resist up, I believe, doesn't have anything to do with, like, for example, the multiplier, the treasures, or whatever. I think resist up just basically straight up reduce the amount of damage taken by that unit in general. Like, for example, if you, again, like, if you have an A orb, fortunately, A orb is, like, the most, like, prettier number here, then you'll take, like, minus 20% damage. The difference between resist up and defense up is that 20% damage reduction doesn't mean that you get 80% damage. For example, you might think that, like, minus 20% damage taken and 20% damage reduction is the same, but actually not really. Minus 20% damage taken means that you get 80% damage taken, plus 20% damage reduction basically means 120. Okay, so basically around this, you basically get an 83% damage taken. If you're supposed to take 100,000 damage, okay, I don't think no enemies take like 100,000 damage. But if an enemy deals like 100,000 damage, then with the resist, for example, resist A, you'll receive 80,000 damage. But with S defense, you'll receive 83% damage. If I don't know if this makes sense whatsoever, but as mathematics, whatever. One of the most like criminal offense that a lot of people see when it comes to talent orbs is the attack up. So this is an extremely confusing mathematics here, which is that the orb effect is based off times IS and then AP. IS is initial stats unit without power with level upgrades, talent, or treasure. What the fuck? This is confusing as hell. Basically, the idea is that you take a unit's level 1 stats without treasures, and then you add that to the calculation. It's very weird. Essentially, I believe every grade, so for example, like this one, D orb, if you put a D orb at a unit, it is almost like as if you are adding 2 levels to that unit. So for example, if you have Kubi Luga, maybe if Kubi Luga does like 100 damage on level 30, I feel like it's probably gonna do less. This is just an example, and he does like 102 damage on level 32, then adding a D attack orb on Kubi Luga will make him deal that extra 2 damage on that specific trait. But that's just an extremely like oversimplification. It's a little bit more than that. It also really depends on like what level you're in, because there are like level fall off and whatever. It's just an extremely oversimplification of it. But yeah, so basically D orbs is like as if you're adding 2 levels, C orbs is 4 levels, B is B is 6, A is 8, and S is 10. It's actually not bad if you think about it. But then this thing is where the problem with attack orbs comes from. This is why attack orb is jank as fuck. Attack orb's effects are additive and cannot stack with any offensive abilities. So attack orb is a flat increase in the most literal way possible. So remember what I said about earlier, the reason why I chose Kubi Luga as an example is because Kubi Luga doesn't have any damage multiplier. Meanwhile, so for example, you have an attack up floating orb, and you might think, well, wouldn't it be a good idea if I put this on Fishman? And that seems like a pretty logical thing to say, right? You know, Fishman is anti-floating, so surely if I put attack up on Fishman, that would make complete sense. Except, unfortunately, not really, because the massive damage doesn't translate to the bonus that you get from attack orb. So for example, if your Fishman by base damage deals like, let's just say 20,000 damage, that means with massive damage, it'll deal 80,000 damage. I should like draw this or something like that. It's really hard to visualize. Okay, so if you have Fishman, for example, at level 30, and for example, it deals 20k damage, and then for example, with the Talent Orb, the Talent Orb gives an extra, let's just say 100 damage. That means normally it would do like 21,000 and 100. Like if, for example, if you for some reason put a red Talent Orb on Fishman, then this is going to be how much it'll do against red enemies. But for example, if you want to put this against floating enemies, this will deal like 80k because it's like times 4. Now, you might expect that this would also be times 4, which would be like 8,400. But in reality, this will still add 100. So it does not add 80,400. This will do 80,100, which is like, what the fuck? Essentially, this will not get affected by any kind of abilities. And this is going to apply to literally any kind of abilities. What if, for example, Shishilan, let's just say Shishi does like 20k normally as well, and then, you know, plus Talent Orb, it'll also deal like 100 to become like 2000. And if, for example, the Strengthen, I forgot how much is his Strengthen. Is Strengthen like times 5? I don't really remember. Let's just say Strengthen is times 5. It'll be like 100k. It would still only add 100. It would be like 100,000 and 100, which is like really not much. This is just an example. I don't think she should have like times 5 Strengthen. I'm just making numbers out. This applies to every single abilities. This applies to crit, this applies to massive damage, this applies to strong, this applies to like savage blow. But you know what is really funny is that, for example, maybe your unit, or whatever this unit is, deals also 20k damage, and you know, you add, let's just say, okay, let's be more generous, let's just say 1,000. Normally it would deal like 21k. Now, if this unit is weakened by, for example, Wing Piggy, Wing Piggy who weakens this by 10%, this would become 2k. Now this would still be 1k, so that your unit will deal 3k. You know, usually maybe from 21k it'll be like 2.1k, but no, this will not be affected by weaken. So technically speaking, Talent Orbs is actually good if your enemies weakens you. Which is kind of funny. This is not really practical in a lot of ways, but it is funny at the very least. The other problem that it has, remember that the boost that you get is from initial stats. Initial stats is like I said, is that unit's level 1 stats without treasures and nothing else. What this also means is that this boost will not get affected by talents, and it will not get affected for units that are balanced around units with really high level. It's kind of confusing, but essentially, TLDR, this would really suck on two different things. One is special cats, purchasable special cats, and two is little cats. Because purchasable special cats has really bad stats. And the main thing that makes special cats really good is the talent stats. So for example, Dark Laser, who is like really good because of the 80% damage boost that you get from the attack up talent, will not get that extra 80% attack boost when it comes to the talent orbs. The talent orbs will only add that level 1 stats of Dark Laser when it doesn't have treasures, when it doesn't have talent. It would really be bad for like special cats especially. Other units with like talents, for example, if you put like attack up orbs on Balrog and your Balrog has like 20% attack up, it's like, okay, 20% is good, but it's not like that big. Like you can kind of take the loss. But like things like Dark Laser has like an 80% stat boost, and it's like quite a lot. The other thing is also Little Cats, like I said. The thing about Little Cat is that Little Cats is balanced around having really high level. So for example, in endgame, you probably would want your little King Dragon to be at like level 80 or something like that. Since it's balanced around having high level, it has really bad initial level 1 stats. So yeah, the boost that you get isn't going to be that much. However, it's actually not too bad for when it comes to specifically Little King Dragon, and not really for other little cats. And that is for one simple reason that is, I think, like a pretty common discussion that you see recently because of things like Mola and Coppermine, which is that since this is a literal flat increase, it is also a flat increase when it comes to mini wave and mini search. Mini wave and mini search, if you're not too familiar with it, is essentially, you know, you see right here there's a lot of waves and search. Mini wave and waves and search deals the exact same damage that this initial units have. If Slime Cat deals like 40,000 damage, the wave would also deals 40,000 damage. But mini wave will only deliver 20% of that damage. And the same goes with mini search. And that is where talent orbs for attack up is really funny, because when they say flat increase, they mean it, because that 20% reduction does not apply to talent orb boost, which is really funny. For example, if Little King Dragon deals again like 20,000 damage, just because it's an easy number, and then it does mini wave. Mini wave is 20%, so it would be, this would deal an extra 4k damage. For example, the talent orb adds an extra 2k. But again, all of these are just examples. These are just made up numbers. Let's just say the talent orb adds an extra 2k. So if LKD doesn't wave, it'll deal 22k damage. If it deals mini wave, it'll do 24k damage. But if you add the mini wave and the talent orb, this will add the 22k and the 24k, and the mini wave itself would also be imbued with that extra 2k. This will instead be 22k plus 6k, so it becomes 28k, which is actually like a pretty decent amount of boost. Normally you might say that this should have been 0.4k, but no, it will actually add the entire 2k into the mini wave. So that's neat. Granted, I said that it's like okay for Little King Dragon, but it's not actually that amazing when it comes to mini wave or when it comes to level 1 mini search. What's crazy is that when you add it to units with multi-level mini search. For example, King Mola. Mola has a chance of doing like a level 5 mini search, I believe. It has a 100% chance to do a level 5 mini search. So what it does is that, for example, this is Mola. Maybe again, Mola does 20k damage. I'm just going to put 20k damage on literally everything. And then it has a level 5 mini search. And this mini search will deal 4k times 5, which is another extra 20k. This plus this would be an extra 40k. it would be 40k. Now, if you add talent orbs to the discussion, so this is 20k. So for example, if a talent orb does an extra 2k, the base would be 22k damage, and the mini search would be 6k times 5. This talent orb boost will apply 5 times. Actually 6 times because of this one. So 1 time here and 5 more times here. This would become 30k. So this would become like 50k, which is a pretty big boost. This is like quite a lot. This is like 20% damage increase or something like that. Again, this is just random numbers. This is not factual. I'm just putting random numbers in just for an example. But essentially, yeah, the talent orbs that you apply, that boost will get applied a lot, and this would boost a unit's damage significantly because of that. And again, this is only mainly for a high level mini search. If the mini search is only level 1, that would only apply like 1 more time. If it's a mini wave, it would also only apply once. So this is only usually big for units that has a multi-level mini search. For example, Mola. The other example would be Copper Mine. That's also another recent one that we have. So essentially, yeah, it becomes like rather unbalanced, I guess you can say. But then you might also ask, what about units like, for example, Dark Ghastly? Ghastly doesn't have talent and doesn't have talent orb slots. But just for theoretical sake, let's just say that she does have talent orb slot. Would it not be good for her? The talent orb would also be applied multiple times for her. Why are we only talking about mini search and not about normal search? The main thing that is important when it comes to mini search is unit balance. A unit that deals mini search would generally have pretty high DPS, while a unit that has full search generally has low DPS. For example, again, Dark Ghastly, even though she's like one of the best units in the game in general, she actually has like a very low base DPS. At level 30, her base DPS is like, it's actually like really low. Yeah, she has like around 2k DPS without the search, and she's balanced around that. And yet, she's still one of the best units in the game, because in total with her search, her DPS can be boosted up to like 9k or something like that, which is like extremely high. But because of that, since her base stats is really low, her extra damage that she gets from talent orb is also going to be really low. However, if for example Ghastly is a unit that is centered around mini search, she would have an extremely higher base damage. Since she has an extremely higher base damage, the boost that she gets from talent orb is also much higher. So that's basically what is funny about attack orb and mini search. That's basically generally about it for the funny interactions. But we're getting relatively sidetracked. How does attack orb with multi-hit, especially on units that deal unequal damage on every hit? Does every hit get unequal boost, and would the boost from attack orb include initial stat from all attack? Good question. I also asked that at one point and I experimented on that. It does nothing special. So if a multi-hit unit does like low damage, huge damage, that attack orb boost would also still be low damage, huge damage. It would actually be consistent. The only one with weird interaction is mini wave and mini search. I did test it out with like Hime Yuri, and they do actually like split the damage like normally. But yeah, that's a good question. We're getting relatively sidetracked when it comes to the attack orb stuff. But let's get back to like the main question. Should you farm orbs? What do you guys think? Should you guys farm orbs? From what you've learned so far, given that like 1A orbs is like 12D orbs, and getting 1D orbs is already relatively random, and getting S orbs is like 36 orbs. No, from an orb farmer, it's not worth it. Literally no. Okay, my consensus is also no. You shouldn't farm orbs. That being said, you shouldn't also, how do I say it? You shouldn't like completely ignore Enigma stages whenever it's up. Like if you get like Red Frontier, you should still like play them. It's like 100 energy each. It's not that much energy, and you get an orb. You don't go out of your way to farm them. But anytime you can get them, it's fine. It's not that hard to get like the smaller orbs, right? Just, I wouldn't really recommend getting out of your way to do it. Also, Gold CPU exists, exactly. Before Gold CPU exists, every time I get Frontier Shine for zombies, I would not do it. Because Frontier's Shine for zombies sucks ass. I do not like that level. That level takes forever to start off, that level takes forever to finish, and that level is relatively inconsistent, especially when it comes to no Ubers. If you're using Ubers, it's not that hard. But also, the start off is really annoying. I don't really like that stage. That stage takes too long for a stage that you want to farm, so I usually skip it. But now that we have Gold CPU, I can just tap Gold CPU twice and be done with it. There are ways to, for example, force Enigmas to appear instead of Hunter's Map by keeping Hunter's Map active while you get other Enigmas enigmas, but also at the same time, why would you do that? Hunter's Map literally drops significantly better stuff. If you want to quote-unquote farm, the best way to farm is probably Isle of Hidden Treasures and also doing gauntlets. But remember that gauntlets are absolutely ass, and if you want to farm them, probably only farm ones that are like really easy for you, generally, if you're like really late game or if you have really broken Ubers. But even in general, you probably shouldn't do it. I think everybody who has farmed gauntlets can say that it's a miserable experience. However, I will say this, even though that you probably shouldn't farm orbs, I think you should use B orbs. B great orbs. Not A, not S, B. Specifically B. And the reason for that, most of the time you can generally just get D or C. Sometimes you can get B. And sometimes in here you might get A, but it's very rare. If you're playing the Aku stages, the Aku Enigmas have a pretty high chance of getting A and B, but in general, the general mindset is that you're mainly only get D and C. Now, the reason why I said you should get B is that, okay, let's say the multiplier here, the increase are all flat. So from D to C, for D, you get a 4% damage reduction. For C, you get +4, so you get 8. On B, you get +4, you get 12. On A, you get +4, it's 16. And in here, +4 is 20. Same as here, it's like 5%, and then another 5%, and then another 5%, another 5%, another 5%. This is +0, 1, +0, 1, +0, 1, +0, 1, +0, 1. This is -2, -2, -2, -2, -2. This is +06, +06, +06, +06, +06. This is the flat increase. And yet, getting B to A requires 3 B orbs. Meanwhile, getting C to B is only 2 B orbs. It's only 2 C orbs. Getting D to C is only 2 D orbs. If you want to get B orbs, you only need 4 D orbs. And that's not a lot. It is very, very easy to get B orb. And yet, you see here, it's like -15 damage taken if you have B resist. And if you have maximum, it's like -25. Like, yeah, okay. If you want to get from B orbs to S orb, you need 9 more B orbs. You could choose to farm 8 more B orbs to turn this -15% damage taken into -25 damage taken. Or you can take that 8 B orbs and apply it to 8 different units. You can also just choose to not farm S orbs and just stick with B orbs. It's like around 60% of S orbs, and yes, you might see the difference, but also this is already decent enough. This isn't like a big change, but this is a change that can help when it comes to certain stages. Why go through the trouble of getting 8 more orbs to increase this to max when you can also just like apply this to like 9 different units? It is really easy to get B orbs. It is not easy to get S orbs at all. Granted, generally speaking, you can kind of say that like C and D orbs are like more effective. And yes, technically C orbs are like the most cost-effective to ratio, if that makes sense. Because like C orbs is like double the effect of D orbs. And C orbs is literally 2 D orbs. So that you can kind of say that C orbs are technically the most cost-efficient one. But B orbs is like only slightly harder to get. And it is also slightly better. So you might as well just go with B orbs. Meanwhile, when you want to get A orbs, it's already pretty hard. Granted, I think trying to get A orbs is also kind of fine. And you can get a lot of A orbs if you get the Aku Enigmas. Aku Enigma drops a lot of A orbs. Essentially, my point is that you should still use talent orbs, but probably keep them to B if you don't want to be like a mega farmer. Also, hold on. Wait, I want to show you guys this. Hold on. I just realized what's going on in the game right now. There's like barely anything here. It's like almost all Kubi, Lugas, and Mola. No wonder it's like a lot of these enemies are not dying. Holy shit, it's just because Kubi Lugas is like doing all the work. That's crazy. That's actually really funny. Kubi Lugas cannot destroy the Space Fish barrier. Okay, that's kind of hilarious actually. Okay, anyways, back to topic. We'll see if we die when it comes to after we come back. So yeah, technically speaking, C orbs are like the most effective one, but B orbs isn't that hard to get after you get C orbs anyway, so you might as well just get B orbs. So the other question is, why shouldn't I just sell it? Technically speaking, you can. I forgot to talk that you can sell orbs. I should have talked about that first. Yes, you can sell orbs. So talent orbs can be sold for NP, which is actually pretty good. Granted, the question is, should you just sell orbs? And I would say in general, no. But you can do it, but I wouldn't put it as like the first thing that you should do. And another thing is that you shouldn't farm orbs for the sake of getting NP. There's a lot of other ways to farm NP. The main one is like grinding Super Metal Hippo, and grinding Super Metal Hippo is like probably the best way to farm NP. Whatever of like how... oh my god, the solar moved. That's a little bit scary. Anyways, I think someone out there have already made like an entire Google Doc of like how farming Super Metal Hippo is much better than trying to farm Talent Orbs. So yeah, in general, if you want to get NP, farming Talent Orb isn't the way. But if you're asking like, for example, hey, I have like this amount of Talent Orbs in storage, should I sell them for NP? Then I would say the answer is generally no, unless you absolutely know what you want to buy. So for example, if you have 199 NP and you want to get like a really good talent that is like 200 NP and you're like, should I sell this D Orb? Absolutely. You know, because D Orb sells for like 1 NP. Like, yeah, just sell them, that's fine. But in general, should you sell like all of the orbs that you have for NP? I think it's better to just use them. But if you absolutely know what you want to buy with NP, sure, I guess you can sell them, that's fine. I think someone also has like a Google document of like how to efficiently sell orbs. So you can see here, there's like the NP value here. S orb sells for 25, A orb sells for 7, B sells for 2, C and D sells for 1. I believe the gist of the idea is that if you want to get the most efficient NP selling, is that if your orb is D, then you can sell it as is. But if your orb is C or above, then you should combine it to S and then sell it. I think that's how it is. I don't fully remember the details, but I think that's how it is. Like, if you get a natural C, B, or A orbs, then you should try to combine it to S and then you sell it. But if you have D orbs, that's the best way to sell it. I think that's how it is, yeah. Granted, again, I would say in general, you shouldn't see Talent Orbs as a way to get NP in general. It's not really a good way to see it like that. I would say in general, you should use Talent Orbs. I think it's just... oh my god, most of the Kubi died! Damn, that's crazy! No wonder most of my units are coming back. But yeah, anyways, in general, I wouldn't really completely advise you to sell your Talent Orbs unless you absolutely know what to buy. That being said, you know what Talent Orbs that I would actually not mind you selling? Metal Orbs. So I'm pretty sure most of you have a bunch of Metal Orbs lying around for a certain reason, and it is because Metal Orbs only has one type, and it is defense. Metal Orbs does not have attack up, Metal Orbs does not have strong up, Metal Orbs does not have resist up, Metal Orb does not have massive damage up. For the most part, you have a very limited amount of units that you want to put Metal Orbs on. For one, obviously, Catasaurus. And then that's about it. Maybe you can put it for like, I don't know, Paladin or something like that, but like, that's basically about it. There's a very limited amount of units where you could put Metal Orbs and it'll be good at. Huricat doesn't have talent. So Huricat doesn't have Talent Orb slot. So you cannot put Metal Orb slot on Huricat. You can't put Metal Orb slot on Waitress. You can't put Metal Orb slots on Hoop Cat or Puppet Master or Future Cat, because none of these cats have talents. Could they have talents in the future? Maybe, I don't know. But for now, as we're speaking of like non-Uber wise, the only unit in the game that is like good to put Metal Orb talents on is literally only Catasaurus. And I guess Talented Lolly, I guess. Yeah, sure. And then that's about it. The others are like maybe Ubers, but even then, most of these Ubers probably you don't really need that much use for defense up anyways. But sure, it would be nice, I guess. So you'll probably have a lot of Metal Orbs lying around. So I think it probably is fine to sell some spare Metal Orbs once you already put like A Orbs on, or S Orb on your Catasaurus, whatever. So then here comes the age-old question. Why does Metal Orb only has defense up? Okay, well, when it comes to like massive damage, strong up, and resist, I think the answer is pretty clear. It's because there's not that much units that has massive damage, resist, or strong up against metal. Especially when it comes to like massive damage against metal. Like, who the fuck has massive damage against metal? And even if they do have massive damage against metal, do they have crit? Because Amaterasu still deals 1 damage to metal. It's not like she's going to increase from 3 damage to 4 damage. It doesn't matter. Resist, there's also a very limited amount of units that resist metals. And strong is also the same. The question is, why isn't there one for attack up? Well, I have a theory for that. Remember how Attack Orb is as flat as can be. I have this theory that I think if metal orbs for attack exist, it would absolutely break metal interaction. It might bypass the metal body. This is my theory, is that if you have an extra like 100 damage from Catasaurus, it will deal that extra 100 damage regardless of the metal body ability, which is going to absolutely break metals. And I think that is also partially why there are no metal enemies that are paired with other traits. There are no like metal floating enemies, or there are no metal zombie enemies. There are no like metal Aku enemies. All metal enemies are always pure metals. And I think it's because of that. For example, if there's like a metal zombie enemy, and then I have a unit that has like a zombie attack up, then it would deal like that extra damage against that metal, which is like pretty fucked up, right? Again, this is just a theory. I don't know, maybe if someone can like mod that in, a custom enemy that has like multiple traits and like one of that trait is metal. If there's like a special enemy where it's like red and metal, and then I put a red attack orb, theoretically this might bypass the metal body ability. BCU time, I don't think BCU would be able to emulate this, because BCU works on a different like way than Battle Cats. This has to be pure modded Battle Cats, I think. But yeah, that's basically my theory. My theory is that it would legitimately just break metals, which is kind of funny. But hey, it's just a theory. Okay, so I have two more topics. Two more subtopics, I guess. One subtopic is this is a short one. Should you remove orb or destroy orbs? Removing orbs, remember, takes away 10 NP. Essentially, if it's not an S orb, just destroy it. It's not really worth it. But if it's an S orb, it's actually worth it to remove it, because selling S orb is 25, removing is 10. You're going to be in a loss if you destroy S orbs. But that being said, you shouldn't go out of your way to fuse that orb into S orb before you remove it. That makes absolutely no sense. If it's A, I'm not sure actually. If it's A, you might consider removing it. I think if it's A in general, you should probably still destroy it. But if you feel like, man, I want to put this on another unit and I don't want to refarm it, then I guess you can remove it. But if it's like B, just destroy it. If it's A, you can consider it. If it's S, absolutely remove it carefully. If it's B, just destroy it. The other, I guess, like, this is probably like the biggest question of all, which is, how do I decide which units to put orbs, or what orbs should I put on X? So I have a list of like if else here. If that unit has that relevant ability, so for example, if it's like Dark Laser, and Dark Laser has strong against, obviously use strong against orbs. If you have strong against orb, use strong against orbs. But also kind of like consider the tier. Like if it's only like a D tier orb, then it might not do that much. The other question is, I guess, is also like, what trait do you want to put it? And I guess it's like, it's really hard to say for that one. Think about whatever enemies you would usually put this on. For example, Kitty of Liberty. I put talent orbs on my Kitty of Liberty. Even though my Kitty of Liberty doesn't have any ability, I put B alien damage up on my Kitty of Liberty, because Kitty of Liberty deals damage, and the one main trait that I use Kitty of Liberty on is against alien, because he does barrier breaker, right? I can't use Kitty of Liberty for every other traits because he's a good damager, but I'm mainly going to use him against aliens. So that's mainly the thing that you should probably think about. For units like, for example, Can, it's harder to think about, because Can, you use it for literally every trait. That one, I would say, it's up to you. If that unit has a multi-level mini-search, definitely consider putting an attack orb. The other thing is that if that unit has a Z-kill, consider attack orb. I say consider because there are units like Talmutersh that has like zombie killer and deals like no damage against zombie, which in that case, don't put attack orb. But if it's something like Volter, I would say consider attack orb, because you generally want that unit to be the one that deals the final hit. Granted, Volter is a little bit funny. One of Volter's main damage source is the Savage Blow ability, but the Savage Blow ability does not increase the attack or boost, so it's like a little bit like something to consider. But in general, I think if it's a Z-killer damager, you should consider putting attack up. The other one that I'm thinking about is like Cat 6 Siege Engine. Cat 6 Siege Engine is kind of like somewhat of a tanker, but you can use it to Z-kill, and in my Cat 6 Siege Engine, I put attack arm. Even though you might say that like, well, technically you can kind of use it for like tanking, but also I think it's just good to have attack up on a Z-killer, because you would want to have as much of a high chance to deal that Z-kill on a Z killer unit. Okay, and like I said earlier, if that unit relies on just damage multipliers in general, consider not using attack orb unless you are using that attack orb for a different trait. I know this sounds weird, but for example, if you have like Pizza Cat and maybe you don't have massive damage against black orbs, which in that case you might consider, okay, what about attack up black orbs? But I will give you another choice. Have you considered putting attack up Angel instead of attack up black? You would not really need to consider, oh, what if like the massive damage and all that stuff, because it doesn't have massive damage against Angel. It would actually still work for like other Angel enemies. It would still work for like Angelic Gories or Angelic Hippos and stuff like that, you know? And that being said, you might also even consider like, well, my Pizza Cat is already like really strong against black enemies, then I might as well not boost it more against black, and I would rather have it be better against Angelic Gories. Then, you know, yeah, it's just something to consider. There's a lot of good answers when it comes to talent orbs, so don't be too scared of if you're not like too optimized on which talent orbs you want to put. One example, Caxer. Okay, you want to know what talent orb Caxer has on his CAT, Box Cat True Form. Actually, I'm not entirely sure if he has this on. I think he has this on, but he definitely has talked about this before. But you want to know what talent orbs Caxer has on CAT? Take a guess on what could he possibly put on CAT. CAT, by the way, is a rusher unit that deals massive damage against black enemies. You want to know what he puts on his CAT? Attack up black? Aku? No. He puts defense up against alien. And you know why? It's because at level 50, with defense up against alien, I think like grade B, CAT can take an extra hit from Puxley at floor 47. This is where one of like the funnier usages for talent orbs. You should consider also other traits that it's not effective against, because there might be certain times where the main thing that hits it might not even be that target trait. That's pretty cool. The other thing is, for example, Catasaurus, right? Like obviously you would want to put like defense against metal when it comes to Catasaurus, right? But have you considered defense against zombie when it comes to Catasaurus? So that maybe your Catasaurus can take an extra hit from Dabu in March to Death. It's one of those things where it's like there's no exact right answers when it comes to talent orbs. It's just when it comes to like what stages do you want to be good against, you know, stuff like that. I will unsubscribe. What do you? I think it's sensible. I think this is like completely valid. You can put attack up Angel on Pizza and it would be valid. Yeah, my point is there's no right or wrong answer. Sure, some might be more optimized than others. Sure, some is better against certain stages, but yeah, in general, I think it really depends on like a stage-to-stage basis. The more like fun application of talent orb is, like I said, for example, like what Caxer did earlier, which is that he calculated that a certain unit might only need to take an extra, a slightly more HP to take an extra hit, and talent orb is going to be that slight boost that that unit needs to surpass that barrier. And that's what I think is fun about like talent orbs in general. So yeah, it's just a fun little mechanic you shouldn't think too much about. But if you have a unit that you want to go like, this unit doesn't have a talent orb yet and I want to put a talent orb something, I don't know if I want to consider attack up or massive damage or strong or whatever. If you don't want to think, the easiest thing is put defense up. Defense up is like always the safest choice. Attack up is really dependent on the unit. It can depend on like, does it have many wave? Does it have many search? Does it like depend on like the ability and all that stuff? Yada yada yada. Defense up is like always a safe choice to put on units. I think that's the general gist of talent orbs discussion in general. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Any questions? Putting up attack red on Aphrodite is fine? I think it's fine. Think about it again. Think about it like this. You can use that attack up red on Professor A, and that's a valid usage for Aphrodite, right? You can use Aphrodite for Professor A, and I think like Professor A does get countered by Aphrodite, and this attack up orb can indeed help when it comes to killing Professor A. So yes, I think putting attack up red on Aphrodite is valid. Does that mean I should use defense up on CAT, alien? Well, again, it depends on the stage-to-stage basis. I think it only really functions well on like floor 47. Other than that, you know, consider other stuff. What orb would you put on Ultra Talent Hime Yuri? Attack up Angel. My Hime Yuri has attack up Angel. Hime Yuri has pretty damn good DPS in general, and Himeyuri doesn't rely on multiplier abilities to work. You're probably mainly going to use Himeyuri against Angel. Yeah, I think it's just good to have Himeyuri to deal more damage against Angel. Even more so if you have Himeyuri's Ultra Talent, because Himeyuri's Ultra Talent have Surge, and she can deal 3 Surges at once. It's not as the same as like the same level mini Surge, but I think it's still pretty good. Is it worth to put Orbs on CC units? Absolutely, put defense on. When it comes to CC units, put defense on. Defense is always good when it comes to CC units. If it's like Thaumaturge, you can put defense on like any trait, and I think it would be valid. If it's like Catly, put defense up red. If it's like Gardener, put defense up zombie. You don't have to put the orbs though. You can save the orbs for something else that you might be interested on. You can sell them if you want to. That's also fine. It's just that it's not really wrong to put defense up on these CC units. What units would you prioritize using orbs on? Any units that you use a lot, obviously. So if you use Cat a lot, put orbs on there. You use Pizza a lot, put orbs on there. You have Thief Cat that you never put talent orbs on, maybe you don't need to put talent orbs on there. You have Maximum Divider and you never use Maximum Divider, maybe you don't need to put talent orbs on him. If you don't use that unit much, you don't have to use literally every orbs that you have. Again, you can sell them, it's still valid. What does it cost 3B for 1A and 3A for 1S? Because Ponos wants you to farm. That's the simplest answer. Ponos is sadistic and Ponos wants you to farm. Should I use my S on medals for Papaluga? If it makes you happy, absolutely. Oh shit, most of my units are already dying, let's go. Oh no! Alright, all of my units die. Let's go. We can finally end stream soon. Alright, I guess that's about it for now. If you have any more questions or you can't think of a question now, you can maybe ask there the feed.